and the syndicated columnist George Will. George, your thoughts on these leaked emails and what they could mean?
I think Carl's largely right. It's very hard to get people's attention in a firestorm of the sort we've had for the last 2 or 3 days on something that, when you read the transcripts, it looks almost like sort of anodyne pandering to the people who are paying her lavish fees. It's not attractive. It's not dynamite.
Scott?
Yeah, I think she has a problem because it's a topic that allows Trump to get back to the one area in this campaign where he's been scoring points, and that's on the economy, trade, job creation. Nobody believes Hillary Clinton knows how to create jobs in the private sector, and the main rationale for Trump's candidacy is just that. So if he can get on that topic and get in that issue set tonight for more time than we did at the first debate, he could have a good debate tonight.
What about this statement she made about how you're dealing with these controversies and so on, you have to have a public position and a private position? Is that simply more of what we already knew about her, George, or does this take this to another level?
Well, this is a Kinsley gaffe, named after Michael Kinsley, who said that a gaffe is when a politician says something improvidently true. And in fact, in politics, you do some things in the public presentational side of politics, and you do things in the back room where you're negotiating, cutting deals, splitting differences, and making sausage. And I don't think this is startling, but it's not something the public likes to hear.
So, Scott, if you're Donald Trump, it's been suggested by the earlier panelists that he could make use of this effectively. How can you picture his doing that?
Well, I think he's got to get the outrage of the day off the table right out of the gate. He's got to get ready for her attacks on the New York Times income tax story, because I think where Hillary's going to try to defend herself on the economy and on these documents is to point out his income tax issue and also point out that maybe he's not the great businessman that he says he is. He's got to be prepared to parry those attacks and move back on offense against her. He cannot allow himself to get distracted and on defense. If he spends all night on defense and flustered about what she is likely to say about him, that's going to be a huge problem, and he will not be able to control any flow in this debate.
What that seems to suggest, Scott, is that he's going to need some self-discipline. George, do you think he could muster the self-discipline required to avoid walking into traps and at the same time turning things to the things he wants to talk about?
Well, just as contrition is not part of his repertoire, neither is discipline, what we normally associate with him. He's a counterpuncher. He's an attacker. He also is in a terrible position now, because 20 years ago, in 1996, at exactly this point in the campaign, it became clear to Republicans that Bob Dole was not going to defeat President Clinton. The entire Republican apparatus shifted, and the argument became elect Senator so-and-so, the Republican, Congressman so-and-so, the Republican, as a check on the Clinton presidency. And I think you're going to see that now. People are going to assume that the Clinton presidency is going to happen.
Yeah, there's been talk, Scott, that the party resources will be turned away from supporting Trump and more than ever toward retaining control of the House and Senate. Do you sense that strategy is about to take effect?
Well, I think certainly in order to hold the United States Senate, we have to keep Republicans, rural voters, and Christian voters going to the polls. One thing that I'm worried about are rural voters, Christian evangelicals deciding that they don't want the decision for president on their conscience. They don't want to have to look at the ballot. They don't want to have to choose between either, and so they just decide to sit it out. The Republican Party has to keep those folks going to the polls. I worry about Senate races in North Carolina, Missouri, some where we've seen close polling. If a handful of people don't show up, it could cost us a Senate race, and that could cost us the majority. It's a huge problem.
George, final thoughts?
Well, the faith community that he was referring to has been a big part of the Republican constituency for years and taken very seriously and courted assiduously by candidates. If the faith community can weather this storm of Trump news...
Yeah, faith leaders are sticking with him.
They are sticking with him. It's going to cause people to rethink what it means to be in the faith community.
Scott, George, thanks to both of you. Please stay right here with Fox News as we await the second presidential debate. What does Trump need to do? We'll talk more about that shortly. Stay tuned.